Good morning. It's so good to be in God's house. I've enjoyed this week. The weather has been wonderful, and then it rains this morning. And you're like, come on, God. But God knows what he's doing. My grass needs the rain. Your grass needs the rain. This world needs the rain. We just hope that he'll rain down on you this morning and here, right? Amen? I have felt his presence in this place, and I'm excited what God has to speak to us today. We're in week 4 of a 5-week series, which means next week is the last week of this series called The Struggle is Real. Trying to follow Jesus in this selfie world that we live in this selfish world that we live in is kind of tough sometimes, and we've been talking about that. And so next week we're going to finalize this and wrap it all up with talking about how do we find rest in the midst of the chaos that is this world. And really, we've been tying technology into this, and really a lot of people, you can't find rest because you can't put your phone down. And so we've known this to be true, that it's hard for you to let go of your technology, so it's hard for you to get some rest and some peace. I don't know about you, but I was up till 1 a.m. through the third quarter of Colorado versus Colorado State, thinking, well, go Dion, y'all can do it. Y'all just do it without me. And the first thing I did this morning, I got up and made sure they did it. Like that's my second favorite team now, apparently, is Colorado. But and then so, it is. The last thing we do, the first thing we do, it's we got to do it. So we're going to talk about that next week. But today we're going to talk about something that we need to be practicing, something that we are not practicing. We're going to talk about resurrecting compassion. Resurrecting compassion. Why does it need to be resurrected? Because it died. It died. We could care less about one another. We could care less about each other, but we're going to talk about that today. Social media has a way of raising the awareness of all kinds of things. Ministries can explode on social media. Organizations can explode. The needs that come to our lives can be put out there, and people can go crazy about that. It kills me how you can put a link out there and you can raise millions of dollars overnight. I mean, not me. I haven't personally done it. I mean, if anybody wants to do that for me, that'd be fine. There is a need always. And so money can be raised like that just overnight on social media because it goes so fast. Overnight, a certain need can be met and can be world known. And then all of a sudden the next week it totally disappeared. I remember a few years ago there was this big old thing, this big trend called the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Anybody remember that one? A few years back, everybody was dumping buckets of ice over their head and this and that and the other, and it went wild, it went viral, it went crazy, and it was all the craze. But the ALS challenge is not out there, but ALS is still a real life issue that is dealt with every day. And sadly, no one's talking about it. It was here, it was crazy, it was viral, and then let's go talk about something else. It can be great benefits in social media, but also there's some great negatives to social media. We've been talking about that. There was a group of studies of scientists at the University of Michigan who did a study over a period of 20 years. A study of college students. Some of you here, you're college students. Some of you just been college students. Some of you are going to be college students. Some of you may be like me. I was a college student for 30 years, off and on. But during this study, they realized there was something that happened, and they found out there has been a drastic decline in care for one another. The study, the final of the study, the finality of the study said that when that study was ending, it said, we care 40% less than people did in the 1980s. And some of you are like, when was the 1980s? Well, it was way back then. I remember it. I was there when it happened, and I guess I ought to know. But 40% less than people cared in the 80s. Now, this study was actually about 10 years old, so now I'd say we probably care 53% less than people did in the 80s because it's multiplying. I'm just throwing a number out there. It said, and to be honest, some of you don't seem to care about this. It's just like, no, but that's what it was. Questions like, I tend to be concerned of others' opinions, drastic drop. I tend to feel sympathy for those who are going through tough times, a drastic drop. More people characterize themselves as hard-hearted than soft-hearted. 40% drop in caring for others going through problems in their life. And I guess the question is, why do we care less than we used to? Why do we care less than our parents cared? Or why do we care less than our grandparents cared? And most experts say that technology has a lot to do with it. Technology has a way of realizing and help us to care less about things. I think one of the reasons is that we're more obsessed with ourselves than we've ever been before. Maybe we've always been obsessed with ourselves, but we haven't had the technology to promote ourselves as much as we do now. But we're more obsessed with ourselves than ever before. I mentioned a few weeks ago, or maybe last week, about the word selfie, that it's used 93 million times a day because we're obsessed with ourselves. Selfies, we're driving in our car, selfie. We're having a duck face selfie. I'm glad that's not an issue anymore. Me and my bestie, selfie. Kissing someone somewhere cool, selfie. Me and my cute pet, selfie. I've got great seats at this game, selfie. I'm taking a silly selfie. I'm taking a serious selfie. It's me and my food, selfie. Looking good in the bathroom, selfie. I haven't got that one yet. Oh, I say looking good in the bathroom mirror, selfie. And then, of course, that's that. Oh, here, is my phone down there? Anybody got my phone? No? Did I move? Can I borrow your phone, Dylan? Thanks for being here. Dylan's home. Hey, for a couple of minutes. Thank you, Dylan. Is it on? I got to swipe up and get a picture, right? Is that how I do it? No. The picture. And then, of course, there's the that's good preaching selfie. All right. Here you go. Get that to me later so I can post that as my place, right? Now, let's be honest. We are much more obsessed with ourselves than we've ever been. At least that's the way we act, right? Studies show that 80% of what people post on social media is directly tied to themselves, to ourselves, to yourself. If I'm going to go on social media, I'm looking for my interest, for my pictures, for my comments, for my status updates, and for what everyone is saying about my status updates and what they're saying about my pictures and how many times it's been liked and how many times it's been shared and how many times it's been followed. And then I'm going to go and sit in my recliner and lay back and say, wow, I've accomplished something. Look at that. Isn't that nice? When we see something about us, scientists tell us that our body releases this dopamine, this high, this shot, like, ooh, wow, look at that. Isn't that good? Isn't that nice? I mean, I saw Jordan Long going right there and taking a picture, and I thought, is this a good angle? Should I suck in and poke out all at the same time? Oh, I just cramped up. Oh. I mean, we're so obsessed with like what people think about us and how they see us, and it's like, which sends us to this, to look more for us, because man, we feel good about it. Look at people are saying this and what they're saying about us and all that. We're saying so much about ourselves and we're caring so much less about others. And social media is training us to care less about other people. So I would say we're more obsessed with ourselves than ever before. I'd also say that the overexposure to suffering has desensitized us as a nation. Now, when I was growing up, when there was a person on we all sat down and watched the 6 o'clock news. If you're of that age, if of my age and older, you know, we did dinner, we did the 6 o'clock news, and now it's the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 4:30, 6:30, 10:30, 10. I mean, it's the 6 o'clock news was the stuff. And if you were crazy enough to stay up to 11 and wait for Johnny Carson to come on after, the 11 o'clock news, but we would watch that. But if someone had died on the news, and we would never show the body. It would always be a sheet. You just assume there's something under the sheet, right? They would never show those things. Now they show it. It's live action. Hey, someone's being beheaded in Iraq. Let's go there. And we've watched this, and we've seen this, and we've seen that, and we've seen that, and we've been desensitized to all of it. And the more pain that we see, the harder it is for us to care about the pain. Years ago, when you would see a starving child on television and you'd hear the music playing in the background, you would run real quick to get your checkbook. And you'd write a check and you'd put it in the mail and you'd send it off, even for puppies, for sure. You would have to, or if you didn't do that, you'd have to turn the channel because it hurt your heart so much that you couldn't escape the turmoil of these people starving across the world. Now we've seen those pictures so long, we've seen those commercials so much, it really doesn't bother us that much. We just turn the channel. We're like, come on, we'll just watch something else. I think it's funny, something happened years ago. I mean, when we, like during the Desert Storm era and all that stuff, we were like, there's a war going on, but not on this channel. Click, click. We're watching this now, and there's no war going on. I mean, the whole world, right now it's happening. The whole world can be falling apart around us, but not on my channel. We've been desensitized to all of it, right? Experts now say that we view things so long and and now how we do social media, we view things in this timeline. They're just lines of things, and we just view them. And our brain really has no way to differentiate what we're looking at or prioritize the post that there is. You have one post is just as important as the other post. Someone posted about a new recipe. Someone posted about a brutal attack. Someone posted a funny cat video. They're all the same. We have no way to differentiate. Is the cat video more important than this brutal attack of my next door neighbor, or is the brutal attack more important than the new recipe that I really want to try? Your brain's trying, it's a line item, you know. Your brain doesn't do well like that. It's a recipe or an attack or a cat. I don't know. Let's just keep scrolling. And you know, if you do keep scrolling, you don't like Jesus, right? If you keep scrolling, you don't love Jesus, but if you'll stop and share this, you do. You know, let's just throw that out there. Since everything's equal on the page, it becomes equal in our minds, and we could care less about it. I would say another thing is there's a lack of a personal interaction, which makes it very easy not to care about what things are going on around our lives. A lack of personal interaction. If you lose your job and you post about it, I will post, I am so sorry, I'm praying for you. And then I go about my life and I may pray, and then again, I might not pray. Let's just be real honest. I'm not speaking just for myself, I'm speaking for most of humanity. I've told the story over and over and over about my mother when I would go with her to the grocery store as a child, and they would say, well, Sister Collins, I wish you'd pray for me. And she would literally grab a bottle of Crisco off the shelf, open that bad boy up, dip it in, and pray for somebody right there. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Number one, are we paying for the Crisco? And number two, why are you praying for them right here? And she said, well, Chad, I'm just like everybody else. So I get home, I might not pray for them. So while it's on my mind, we ought to just do that. Let's just pray right there. But if I'm with you and you tell me that you've lost your job, I see the pain in your face. I see the fear in your heart. I feel that with you. I see how you're going to have to change your life. Your lifestyle's about to change. Your children's lifestyle's about to change. I can't just say, well, I'm sorry, I'm praying for you. I have to engage. I have to be moved deeper to a deeper reaction. And that lack of face-to-face time and personal interaction makes it very easy not to care. Because it's easy just to do this and send it and then do this and just send it and then move on. And again, in today's society, we interact so differently and so often through social media that it happens that, you know, that's how life happens. I've joked before, and it's really not a joke. Some people will ask me, why don't you, Chad, delete your Facebook? I said, I could not pastor a church without Facebook. I would not know 75% of what I know about you and your life without Facebook. I wouldn't know when most of you go to the hospital without Facebook. I wouldn't know to come visit you if I didn't have social media. Oh, they're in the hospital and they've been there 3 days and nobody's called me and told me, but I probably should go. Now that it's popped on my timeline and pumps, well, what took you so long? Well, it took 3 days to get to my timeline. Facebook chose to when I could view it and not view it, right? We've done more. I'll be honest, it's funny. I told somebody recently, since April has retired, and it may just be a coincidence of that, we've done more face-to-face pastoring than we've done in a long time. Maybe it's that, or maybe that more people have gone to the hospital recently. I'm not sure, but we've been in the hospital a lot lately. More of those face-to-face interactions. And I'm telling you what, it's so easy to get sucked into this social media trap, like I'll just pray for you, click, gling, boom, bomb, boom, again, and move on that way. But we need that face-to-face. I want to look at a couple things about compassion this morning, because as followers of Christ, if you're a follower of Christ, God has called you to much more than saying, I'm so sorry, I'll pray for you. That He's called you to more than that. He's called you to more than just liking it, sharing it, or following it and saying, I'll try to do something about that. He's called you to more than that. And so I'm going to look at this compassion thing, and in doing so, I hope that the Holy Spirit will speak to your heart and realize that today, before we leave, that compassion counts for your life. Compassion counts in our hearts. I want to tell you this first thing is true compassion demands action. True compassion demands action. There's a Greek word translated to compassion. I was going to try to type it out, but it's hard enough to type it out, much less say it. I'm going to try in my Gastonia vernacular. It's called splagnizomai. Perfect Greek. That's the word translated to Greek, and it literally means to have the bowels of your yearn, the bowels of your body yearn, to feel deep sympathy, to be moved to action. That's what compassion truly means. And to say that you care but not act on that is to really not care at all. I'll say that again. To say that you care but not do anything about it really is not to care at all. What we do is when you see someone is going through something bad, somebody's going through something rough, especially when we see it on social media, until recently we would just click like, which totally seems crazy about me. My mother just died, like. That was the only option. We just liked it. Now you can care it and sad face it and happy and laugh. And please be careful, because if someone's mother passed away and you hit happy face or smiley face, you're in trouble. It's easy to do, right? I've done that. Like, oh, go back. No, I've unhappy it. Now I've cared it, you know. But we like it, and it just seems crazy, but that's just what we do. And can I tell you that, you know, caring is not clicking like. I hate to mention it to you. Caring is not just clicking on that. Caring is not clicking. Caring is acting. Caring is getting involved in someone's life. Caring is getting off your recliner and getting in your car and saying, hey, let's get to meet together somewhere. Let's talk together. Caring is making a difference in someone else's life. Caring is not liking a post. Caring is loving a person. Caring is not liking a post, but caring is loving a person. Loving a person where they are. Caring is getting outside of yourself to get involved with someone else. That's what caring is. When you look at the life of Jesus, you see the word compassion over and over and over. His compassion is always followed. It's always related with some kind of action that he took when he saw this. He was moved with compassion. You read it over and over that Jesus was moved with compassion. He felt something, so he did something. Here's what it says in Mark 1:40. It says, a man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. He said, if you're willing, you can heal me and make me clean, he said. And this is what Jesus said. He said, moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and he touched him. He said, I am willing, he said, and you are now healed. Moved with compassion, he reached out and he touched him. Moved to a place where he had to put his hands on this problem. Matthew 14:14, when Jesus landed on the sea and he saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and he healed their sick. He had compassion for them, so then he did something. He didn't say, I see y'all, I'll be praying for y'all. I got some other things I got to go do. Thank God he didn't do that. He said he was moved to compassion. He said, so to say that you care and not act on that is not to care at all. It's not to care at all. Jesus moved to compassion. He felt for them, so therefore he moved and he did something for them. Matthew chapter 20, verse 34, Jesus had compassion on them and he touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. Moved with compassion, saw something that needed to be taken care of, so he immediately felt that, moved on that, and did something about that. Jesus felt compassion and he was moved to action, and true compassion demands an action. The greatest tragedy in today's society, the life that we're living in right now, is that we care less than we ever did. And here's the sad truth about all of that. If we don't wake up to the world that's around us, to those people who are hurting around us, we will continue with this trend until there is a point that we could care less about anything or anybody or anything that's going on around us. To a point where all that you care about is yourself. Me is the only thing I care about. Me is the only thing that matters in life. It's my way or the highway. When in all honesty, it shouldn't be my way, it should only be his way. I should not be concerned about my way. I should only be concerned about the way that God wants to do in my life. As followers of Christ, we are called to live a life of compassion. We're called to live a life of action, to take care of one another. I'll tell you about myself, because I know myself more than anybody else here. The more I focus and obsess on myself and on social media and liking my posts and liking my pics and liking my tweets and sharing my tweets and Instagram, the less I'm focused on everything else around me. I'm not focused on everything else. I'm focused on, hey, I wonder what happened here. But the more I focus and the more I obsess about Jesus and serving Jesus and following Jesus and loving Jesus, the less I'm focused on me. The more I get lost in worship, the less I care about myself. The more I get lost in His Word, the less I get concerned with what's going on in my little life. I'm so obsessed with what's going on and what God would want me to do. I'm actually dying to myself and living for Christ. The more that happens, the more I see the people around me and I see their needs. I see the needs around me, the more I get focused on Christ. And if you'll think about it, when was the last time that you really spent a day or a weekend just to serve other people? This is not going to be about me. I'm just doing this to serve others. When was the last time to serve someone else? When was the last time that you got out of your way and gone out of your way to go do something for someone else? To give above and beyond what was expected because you felt it? To make a difference in someone else's life because you were moved to action? When is the last time you didn't do something that you wanted to do because you wanted to make sure that everyone else was served well? Like, I know what I really want to do and I know what I'd like to have done, but I'm going to do what everybody else, because instead I want to invest in someone else. I want to invest in them. I want to invest in their time and their life and their heart. Now, some of you would say, oh, I did that yesterday. Some of you would say, I'm doing that today. Some of you say, I did that this weekend. But for others, you would say, well, it's been a while. It's been a while, and if that's the case, you may want to take some inventory of your heart and say, what's going on with my heart? What's going on with my life? Why is it that I could care less about everyone else? Because when we're close to Jesus, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about Jesus, and it's all about people who don't know Jesus. That's what it's all about. My family is very good at caring for other people. I said my family, I didn't say me. Like when we go on vacation, they see hungry people, and if we're leaving for dinner, they'll want to give food to them. I'm like, dude, we're on vacation. We're taking a vacation from compassion. But here's the deal, compassion doesn't stop because you take vacation. Your walk with Christ doesn't stop because you're on vacation. It's supposed to be a 24/7 relationship that's going on here, and God's moving and operating and walking with me, through me, and in me. I can't do that. I can't just take a break. I've got to be a person that's close to Jesus, and when I'm close to Jesus, it's all about Him, and it's less of me, and it's more of Him, and I'm called to do these things. So if we're going to live lives of compassion, you need to know what to expect. If you're going to take the challenge this morning and say, hey, I want to be a person of compassion. I want to be a person who cares more about others. I'm going to give you just a few things here as I close up. I'll wrap this thing up here shortly, but a few things that you need to expect. The first thing is this, that compassion interrupts. Compassion will interrupt your regularly scheduled program. Compassion will interrupt your regularly scheduled life. If you look at the life of Jesus in Mark chapter 6, Jesus and His disciples had been doing ministry for so long and so hard to the point they were exhausted. You ever been there? You ever been exhausted? I was there this week. I had run ragged. I was burning at both ends, and I'd got to a point where like, I'm done. I need some time to myself. I need to just walk away and step out and just breathe. And maybe go for a walk in a park by a lake or something and hear the crickets or something. I needed something different, you know. I'd been there. I was exhausted. Jesus was there. His disciples were there. And Jesus says, hey, let's go and take a break. I've been there. You've been there. We've got to take a break or I'm going to break something. You ever been there? If I don't take a break, I'm going to break something or somebody. Exactly. But that's where they are. I mean, if we were that age, we could cry too, because, it's a rough life. It really is. It's a struggle. But they needed a break. They needed some downtime. So they're headed to this break. They're headed to take some downtime. But in the midst of this moment, this crowd shows up. A crowd shows up. And then Jesus is moved to compassion. I know I'm tired. I know I need a break. I said we were going to go take a break. But here's this crowd, and I'm moved to compassion. So instead of resting, He takes time to look into their life, to teach them. And He's moved to action upon them and goes for it and says, listen, we've got to do something in this. That's not the last time. It's just one of the times. In Luke chapter 8, Jesus is on his way to heal a dying girl. Would you come and heal? Would you come and pray? Would you come and lay hands on my daughter? She is dying. And in the midst of all of this woman comes to him and says, who's been sick for years and years and years. And on his way to do something that he wanted to do and that God wanted him to do, God stops him and says, hey, wait a minute, before you do that, you're going to do this. Before you're going to heal this girl, hey, you're going to stop and you're going to heal this woman first. God's sending him this place, but now God's going to stop him and do this thing. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus is preaching to an overflow crowd in this house. The house is packed. And these 4 crazy men begin to cut away at the roof of the house to lower their sick friend through the roof of the house. I don't know about you, but if someone starts cutting through that roof right there, I'm getting out of the way. I'm like, what in the world's going on? Somebody checked the roof recently and they said it was good. So, I mean, if it can't be the roof, what's going on here? We got to figure this out. What's going on? I'm getting out of the way. But not Jesus. Jesus hears this commotion. He sees this commotion and he comes down. And instead of doing what he's doing, he says, I'm moved to compassion. He hears them out. He hears this man out and he forgives him of his sin and then he heals him and he sends him on his way. Compassion interrupts your regularly scheduled program. And I will tell you that God often works through divine interruptions. God will often work through a divine interruption in your life. And if you're not careful and you get so busy with your life and with what's going on online and everything else around you, you're going to miss some of these divine interruptions. Getting so consumed about yourself, so consumed about what's going on you and your life, we've got to stay focused. We've got to stay in tune to the voice of God. Because, ladies and gentlemen, he still speaks. He still speaks. But the big question is, do we still listen? Are we still listening? Are we in a place, are we in a posture that we can hear him when he does speak? Or are we so busy with this life that we are too busy to listen to what he has to say? As he leads us and as he guides us through divine interruptions in our life. I can tell you stories after story after story where my life has been interrupted and God used us in a way that we didn't think could be used because God interrupted us and said, hey, listen, before you do that, I need you to do this. And I can tell you story after story where God did the same thing, not in just my life, but in the lives of those that are sitting right here. Where God interrupted your life and He used you to do some things, but I'm afraid that we've probably missed more divine interruptions than we've been a part of them. I'm afraid we've missed more of them than we've been a part of because we've been so busy with what we had to do. So busy with what we had on our schedule because we're so busy doing our thing with our time that we're not available for God and His time. I believe God really does want to use us to really interrupt the lives of those around us. But before we can do that, He's going to have to be able to be open to interrupting our own life, our own schedules. I will promise you this, if you will slow down and you'll let God lead you, you will see how He can interrupt your regularly scheduled life to do some miraculous things in your life. The natural will become supernatural. The ordinary will come extraordinary if you'll just allow God to be God in your life. With moments in time where you'll be moved to compassion, moved to make a call, moved to pull over and to help someone, moved to meet a need, moved to listen when no one else will listen. Compassion interrupts your life, ladies and gentlemen. Compassion also does something else. Compassion will cost you something. Oh, here we go. We're getting ready to pass the plates again. Compassion costs. Jesus tells a story of a Samaritan guy who goes out of his way to help this Jewish guy, which was totally not what they would have. I almost said kosher, which would be a good Jewish joke. But it was out of his way to pick this man up, to clean this man up, to set this man up, and then to pay 2 days' wages to keep him up in this place. He spent 2 days' wages for a stranger that he didn't know, that was not like him. Wednesday night I was talking to the youth about caring for people who are not like you. It's easy to care for people that we like. It's easy to care for our friends, but he went out of his way to care for somebody he didn't even know. In today's time, we like to do these drive-by compassions. Lord, bless them. I just saw that. I bless them, bless them. I'm praying for them. Oh, I see a need. I hope I'm praying someone meets that need. But I got to go. We got things to do. We want to do what's easy. We want to do what's not inconvenient. I'll click and I'll retweet, or I'll favorite that, or I'll share that link. But honestly, true compassion usually costs us something. It costs you of your time. It can cost you of your money. It can cost you of your comfort. And that's the one that we really don't want to give up. A lot of people will just write a check or share some money or Cash App or Venmo. But I'm uncomfortable getting involved in that. I'm uncomfortable getting involved in your life. Can I just give you a little money and then let's just call it a day? Maybe it costs you at the grocery store. As you see someone in front of you struggling to pay for their groceries, you say, you know what, I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about that. I got you. Are you sure? Yeah, don't worry about it. I got you. Now, that ain't me, that's my wife. If that happens to me, God has literally spoke. Chad, I need you to, because I'm stingy, right? She's saying amen over there. April will come out and say, just so you'll know, I bought our groceries and the 3 people in front of us. Not the 3 people. just one. I said, okay, baby, you go, girl. Maybe it'll cost you like that. Maybe it'll cost you at the restaurant. You see somebody in front of you just fumbling around, Maybe it cost you of your day that you had planned to help someone else with a day that they did not have planned, that something crazy went wrong. And you said, you know what, we'll do this. We'll drop our plans, we'll help you. Maybe it costs you to be taken out of your comfort zone. That's something you'll do that I'm not comfortable doing this, but I'll do it anyway. I'll confront this thing and I'll help you and I will do this because I'm called to compassion. I'm moved to action. Let's be honest. Clicking like is very clean, but compassion is very messy and can get very messy. It can get very dirty, but there's beauty in that, getting out of yourself and following God and letting Him lead you and letting Him guide you to do something that's outside of you, outside of your normal thing that you would do, to serve someone who you would not normally serve, to give when you would not normally give, and to be moved to compassion when you would not be normally moved to compassion. Compassion interrupts, compassion costs, and then finally, compassion changes lives. If you guys will come to the music, I'll wrap this thing up. Compassion changes lives. Everywhere Christ went, He was moved with compassion. And when He was moved with compassion, here's what happened. Lives were changed. Lives were changed. And if you allow Him to move you and move you to compassion, ladies and gentlemen, you will see lives changed as well. And one of the main lives you'll see changed is your life. Let me say that again. When you're moved to compassion and you're moved to action, you will see lives change. And the main life you're going to see change is your own life. Your own life. Every time we've been able to get outside of ourselves and allow God to move us to do something different, every time we've done that, we've seen change. We've experienced change. Every mission trip that I've gone to, I'm going to go and be a blessing. But what happens is I get blessed more than I'm a blessing. I'm blessed by those people. I'm blessed by the way they love the Lord and serve the Lord and do what they do, even without what we all have. I'm blessed. I come back changed. Every ministry trip I take part in, I come back changed. Even if it's across the street or across town or across the state or across the country, compassion changes lives, and it usually changes your life. If you allow God to move in your life, He will change not only those that you're ministering to, but He'll change your life. What is compassion? Let me remind you, it is to ache from the inside for someone else. That when you see that they're going through something, it hurts you. Man, I'm moved by that. I don't know what we can do. We've got to do something about that. I'm moved, I'm aching from the inside, and yet in our society we could care less about these things. And I have to be honest, for us as Christians and for us, the church, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for us as the church. I'm not just talking about this church, I'm talking about the church. It's unacceptable for the church to look at the world in the way that it is and say, Jesus is coming soon, maybe be night or noon. I'm gonna wait over here till it comes. God didn't call us to hide out and wait for him to return. God called us to get involved, to get dirty, to get messy and go after those things and change lives, to interrupt. It's unacceptable. As his people, we have to care. As his people, we have to act. As his people, we have to be people of Jesus, right? Wednesday night, we've been talking about what would Jesus do. We were talking about the bracelets, and we went to Amazon and got some other bracelets, and we got these HWLF bracelets. What in the world is that? What would Jesus do? He would love first. He would love first, without question. He would love first. True love demands action, correct? I can tell my wife I love her, I love you, but until I show her, maybe, right? I show her how? By actions, by my heart, becoming my feet and my hands to do these things. True compassion demands actions. I want to ask you to stand with me this morning. I thought about it. We could have done a cool football message, and I've got a couple of them. But I decided to punt and do this one. Micah wasn't listening. He went, don't you? That's right. I don't want it to be said about us. Now, I'll tell you a true story. Just last week, April was leaving the church. She called me. She said, Chad, there are people at the side of our property about to camp out, or they're setting up shop. I thought she was talking about our neighborhood, our house. I was like, why? She says, no, at the church, they're back at the back of the property. They're setting up camp like they're getting ready to move in. I was like, oh, okay. And so she went down there and she talked to him and said, hey, this is not going to work. It's a Wednesday night. We've got to have families here. We've got to have, And then what was the first thing? Oh, y'all the church, y'all don't care? I said, we do, but we can't have you living right here on the side of our property, right here. Can I go get you some lunch? And of course, April, she goes and gets them some lunch, and she brings them back lunch. And now, you're talking about a caring person. April's one of the most caring people there is. Interrupt everything just to help them. And then, of course, you get smart comments back, well, this or that. Listen, we don't help people because we want to get good comments back. We don't help people because we want them to love us back. Now, I have this pet peeve. I'm old school like this. If you're in traffic and you need to get into the traffic and I let you into traffic, I need you to roll down your window and give me one of these. That's just what I need, or I'm going to ram you. That's in my heart. I've rammed you 3 times, front, back, side, and I'm getting ready to back up on you. How dare you? I took time out of my life to let you in, and now you can't even give me a flipping acknowledgement. Hey, just give me I hate that. That's me. Now, y'all caring people, y'all come on in. It's all right. Just come on. I don't need acknowledgement. I'm not doing it for me. I'm working on me. He's working on me. It took him 52 years to get me this far. He's working the rest of it out for however long it's going to be. But we've got to be people who care. Not because they're going to say thank you, not because they're going to say, wow, look at that place, look at that, because that's what God's called us to do. God's called us to be Jesus people. And as Jesus people, we got to love first. We've got to lead with an example of love. We've got to lead with servant. We've got to lead with compassion, and compassion demands us to move. Compassion is going to interrupt you. Compassion is going to cost you, but compassion is going to change lives around you. And the main life that's going to change is your life. So if you're like a lot of us, maybe even like me, you're hard-hearted, I want to ask you to begin to pray that God would soften your heart for those around you. That God will begin to open your eyes to see those problems around you so you can see people for how God sees them. And I know you're just like me. I'm skeptical of that guy standing on the corner. I'm skeptical of that woman holding that sign. I'm skeptical of all of it. I've been tempted to go put my a 3-piece suit on and stand on the corner and hold up a sign and said, I've got a job, but just wonder if I can make more here. I'm thinking about doing that for a week just as a science experiment. I'm scared. That's me. That's the human Chad. That's me, right? But we've got to be people who love people where they are. I hadn't said it in a long time. I'll say it today, and I'll leave it at that. I work out with these guys, not as much as I should. I do work out a lot. I just don't eat like I should. They have a saying, they call it the six. It's the guy in the back. It's the guy that's in the back. And he said, we never leave anybody behind. Somebody always circles around and gets that guy and stays with him. But we also never leave him where we find him. Eventually the six is going to come to the 5 and the 4 and the 3 and the 2, and then until he can get back, he can go get the 6. I can't leave anybody behind, but I can't leave them where I found them either. See, compassion's not saying and go and loving people and saying, well, I hope y'all can make it, but I'm going to see if we can make you better. That's what the church is. We're not just loving you because that's where you are. We're loving you because that's who Jesus is, and that's what he's doing inside of us, and we're going to bring you to the front with us. We're going to get you. I'm not going to leave you where I found you, but I'm not going to leave you there. I'm going to get you to where Jesus wants you to be, and that's what the church is about. I want to ask you to bow your heads this morning. If you're here this morning and you've got something going on in your life that you need to pray over, you need to bring to the altar, I'd let you know that the altars are open. If you're just here and you'd say, I just want to be a person of compassion. I'm here and I want God to begin to soften my heart. Maybe that's your prayer, and you can pray it from there. You can pray it up front, wherever you need to pray it. That God would soften our hearts. Just by a show of hands, as everybody's got their heads bowed, how many would say, Chad, that's me. I want God to begin to soften my heart. I want to soften my heart so I can see, because basically what you're admitting by raising your hand is you're hard-hearted. That's what I'm raising my hand, because I'm hard-hearted, and I need God to soften my heart to see him. So if you're here this morning and you have prayer, you need prayer for something in your life, something that's going on with your health or your family, your finance, your job situation, your relationships, whatever that may be, I want to pray. And as they begin to sing, I want you to come and pray. But if you're not praying for any of that, I want you to begin to pray that God would make you a person of compassion, that you would see people where they are and you'd find a way to get them where Jesus wants them to be. God, we thank you so much for who you are. We thank you so much for what you're doing. God, we thank you so much for what you've done. But God, I believe you have things that you want to do, that you're waiting on us to open up our plans to you. Open up our lives to you. Open up our agendas to you, that you would use us, divinely interrupting us to be moved on, to move on behalf of those people. And we're not just talking about financial needs, we're talking about spiritual needs. We're not just talking about hardships, we're talking about relationships that need to be mended, and maybe we see those and we help. We see a place where we can step in with the love of the Lord, and we do those things, God. God, we give you praise and glory and honor, and it's in your name we pray. If you're here this morning and you need prayer, I'd love for you to come forward as they begin to worship with us.